Everyone's talking about creatine right now, and for a good reason. Creatine is one of the most well studied supplements in sports nutrition and medicine. And there have been decades of high quality research showing it to be both safe and effective for building strength and muscle. What's really cool is more recently, in the last few years or so, especially, there has been research showing its benefits in cognition, including memory, problem solving, and attention. There's also been more focus recently on how it benefits healthy aging, especially in postmenopausal women. I'm Dr. Rachel Felber. I am an emergency medicine physician and a women's health and strength coach. And in this video, we're going to cover what exactly creatine is, the science behind how it impacts our muscle, brain, and aging, the biggest myths and misconceptions around creatine, potential drawbacks and side effects, and how exactly to take it for the best results. What exactly is creatine? It is actually a naturally occurring compound that our bodies make, typically 1 to maybe 3 grams a day, and it's made from 3 amino acids. We also get creatine in some food, especially fish and red meat, which means that vegetarians and vegans tend to have a lower supply of creatine typically if they're not supplementing. Now, the amount that our bodies naturally make is quite a bit below the amount that has been shown in research to give us the muscle strength and cognitive benefits. Creatine works by replenishing and regenerating our supply of ATP. Now, if you remember from your high school science class, ATP is basically our body's source of immediate energy. So when you need energy for something very quick, like if you're sprinting or lifting weights or any kind of explosive movement, jumping, or even intense thinking, we use lots of ATP for these activities. So when your body uses ATP to generate energy, having creatine on board helps replenish your supply so that you have more energy available more quickly. So the muscles and the brain, which require the most ATP, are the organs that really benefit the most from having creatine on board. So the 3 areas that I want to focus on in this video in terms of how creatine can benefit us the most are 1, muscle and strength, 2 is cognition, and 3 is healthy aging, especially in postmenopausal women. And the way each of these benefit from creatine supplementation are all through improved energy production, since creatine is basically an energy support molecule. Muscle-related benefits are the ones that are by far the most studied. So when we say that creatine is one of the most extensively, or possibly the most extensively studied supplement, we're talking about regarding its effects on muscle. Typically, our muscles are saturated about 60 to 80% with creatine from our naturally occurring sources and from food in the absence of supplementation. But bringing that up to full saturation, 100%, that gives our muscles so much more power during these movements that require quick energy. Let's take somebody who's doing a HIIT workout, so a high intensity interval training workout. They're doing the high intensity portion, say for 30 seconds, they burn through ATP. And then in the time that they're doing their low intensity segment, having their muscles saturated with creatine allows their body to very quickly regenerate, give them more supply of ATP to have ready to go for the next high intensity interval. Same goes for lifting weights. When you start a set, you're going hard right off the bat, you're using ATP. So between sets, when you're resting, with that creatine on board and your muscles fully saturated, you're able to much more easily and quickly regenerate that ATP so that you can go hard again, strong again for the next set. You may be able to add more weight. You may be able to do a few more reps. So people who regularly take creatine for this reason are able to basically get a better workout. They're able to lift heavier and produce more power during their workouts, which will lead to obviously better results in terms of building more muscle more efficiently. And obviously building muscle is something that we care about a lot because more muscle means better overall health, better cardiovascular health, better metabolic health, better insulin control, stronger bones and joints. And there is plenty of research out there that shows that more muscle means lower risk of all-cause mortality. So more muscle means lower risk of dying of anything, injury or illness. So muscle is something that really everybody should care about. Creatine's effect on muscle is amazing, and we really should be taking advantage of it. But the truth is, it's kind of old news. We've known about these benefits for decades. What is new and really exciting is the recent research on creatine's beneficial effects on cognition, meaning how we think, how we problem solve, attention, memory, and especially in cases of stress or sleep deprivation. I don't know anybody who doesn't suffer from some degree of sleep deprivation. It's a problem that a lot of people deal with. We take on a lot, we have a lot of responsibilities. And in order to get everything we need done during the day, we kind of take time out of sleep. Obviously, it's not optimal, but the truth is, that's where things are for a lot of people. And research is very promising that creatine can reduce the negative cognitive effects of sleep deprivation. So, when you have a crappy night's sleep the next day, you're foggy headed, you're not thinking as well, your memory is definitely affected, problem solving is affected, attention is affected. So, recent research just in the last few years has been showing that creatine, especially in relatively higher doses, has a really remarkable impact on reducing those effects that we feel after a crappy night's sleep. This makes a lot of sense because our brains use a lot of ATP. The brain is one of our organs that uses the most energy, so it really just burns through ATP. Now, interestingly, what the research seems to show is that the most benefit happens in people who are under stress or are sleep deprived. Some of the specific things that the research over the last few years have been focusing on is memory, mental processing speed, reaction time, problem solving, and what I think is probably the most beneficial for most of us is resistance to mental fatigue. So that brain fogginess that we experience after a crappy night's sleep is significantly improved in these studies with higher dose creatine on board. So to be totally clear, regarding the research on creatine, it's been much, much more extensive and well established regarding the benefits for muscle and strength. The research for cognitive benefits is newer, and there's a lot more research to be done, but it's very promising and very exciting. And probably the people who will benefit the most from it are people who have lots of stress in their lives or chronically sleep deprived. So parents, students, night shift workers, and anybody else dealing with stress and crappy sleep. I'm going to pause here for a minute for the women who do struggle with getting good quality and quantity sleep, because this seriously impacts your ability to trade fat for muscle. So if that's something that you're working on, you want to lose fat, gain muscle, get a healthier, more efficient metabolism, learn how to eat to move yourself toward these goals, you should check out my book called Your Metabolic Reboot. The link is in the description below, and this book was literally written for you. Okay, back to it. Another group that really benefits from creatine supplementation is older adults, and especially postmenopausal women, because women past menopause are at risk for muscle loss, so sarcopenia, decreased strength, decreased recovery, and decreased metabolic health as an effect of the decreased estrogen and increased insulin resistance that naturally happens in this phase of life, unless we do something about it. So when older women supplement with creatine, alongside regular strength training and a diet that prioritizes protein and overall sufficient nutrition to promote building strength and building muscle, taking the creatine can really help these women build muscle much more effectively and efficiently. Research shows that in this population of postmenopausal women, supplementing with creatine supports building strength and muscle. It supports recovery. And it supports all of the other benefits that come along with strength training, including better bone density, better joint health, decreased risk of falling and fractures, improved metabolic health, improved brain health and cognitive function, improved body composition, so an easier time losing fat and building muscle, better cardiovascular health, better gut health. These are all things that come when we have a high amount of healthy muscle tissue on board, and creatine supports all of this. Now, regarding some of the side effects that people experience with creatine, it's not uncommon to experience gas or bloating or some stomach discomfort when you first start taking it. If you experience this, I hope it doesn't turn you off enough to stop taking it, because there are some ways to mitigate it. You can start by taking a lower dose and slowly work your way up to get your body used to it. Or you could split your daily dose into a morning and an evening dose so that your GI system's only exposed to half as much at any given time. Another common side effect is weight gain. Now, don't let this scare you away. Let me explain. It is not fat gain. When you start taking creatine, if you gain a couple pounds in the first week or so, it is not fat. This is common. It's fluid retention. And it's not that subcutaneous, so under the skin fluid that makes you look puffy or bloated. It's actually fluid that collects in the muscle itself, which positively impacts the muscle size and structure and function and performance of the muscle. So that's actually a benefit. It's fluid going into the muscle to improve the muscle's function. So this is definitely a positive side effect. Next, let's talk about some of the biggest myths around creatine. The first is that creatine is basically like a steroid, which is just not the case at all. This is just a misconception from people who don't know what creatine actually is. Creatine is naturally occurring, and it works completely differently than steroids. Myth number 2 is regarding weight gain. We talked about this earlier. This is fluid that is collected in the muscles, and it is certainly not fat. Myth number 3 is that creatine can injure your kidneys. Over the last several decades, there has been tons of research on creatine, and there is no evidence at all that creatine injures kidneys as long as your kidneys are healthy to begin with. So if you have no pre-existing kidney disease, taking creatine supplementation at the recommended doses, based on all of this research, should be perfectly safe. Now, it's a different story if you have a pre-existing kidney disease. If you do, you definitely need to talk to your doctor, your nephrologist, and see what they recommend. Now, I think it is a good idea to get your blood levels checked before you start creatine to have a baseline. So basic kidney function, which includes your creatinine level, you want to make sure that that's normal before you start. Now, in people who have been taking creatine on a regular basis, they might find that when they get their labs checked again, their creatinine levels are actually elevated. And in other scenarios, elevated creatinine may indicate kidney injury, but when you're taking creatine on a regular basis, it can be normal to have elevated creatinine levels, because when the creatine is broken down in your body, one of the byproducts is creatinine. So you're naturally going to have higher levels in your blood. So that can be expected. The last myth around creatine is that it is only for serious lifters or bodybuilders. And by now, the research shows that the benefits of creatine extend to really all types of people, young, old, men, women, lifters, non-lifters, really for anybody interested in health in general, and anybody who wants to be strong and optimize their health and age with strength and independence. So hopefully, if you're not already taking it, I've convinced you to start taking it. So how to take it? The form of creatine with almost all of the research backing it is creatine monohydrate. So make sure that you're taking creatine monohydrate. And since supplements are really minimally regulated, you should choose a product that is third-party tested so that you can actually trust that you're getting what you think you're getting. I would not use one that is not third-party tested. Now, regarding dose, most of the research for the muscle benefits show that 5 grams is an appropriate dose for most men and women. But if you're a smaller woman, you might need only 3 grams a day. And if you're a larger man, you might need more, something like 10 a day. Here's something that's really important and pretty interesting about creatine and how it works. You get the muscle and strength benefits when your muscles are saturated with creatine. This means that it should not be taken on an as needed basis. So we're not just taking it on workout days, we're taking it every day religiously to build up our body's supply and saturate your muscles so that you get the most benefit of it when you need it. If you're taking a usual dose of about 5 grams a day, it can take a few weeks or even a month to build up to that full saturation. So you shouldn't really expect to get the benefits until about a month into taking it daily. So for this reason, some people choose to load creatine, which means taking something like 20 grams a day, usually split into several doses throughout the day, for several days or a week. And that gets the creatine on board much faster. It gets you to full saturation faster so that you experience the benefits sooner. This is not necessary, but it's on the table for whoever wants to do it that way. You're obviously going to be more exposed to the side effects, so the gas, the bloating, the GI discomfort, if you're taking so much more of it at once. And there's really no rush. I mean, hopefully this is something that you're going to be taking every day for years or maybe the rest of your life. So to rush through to get to full saturation and risk maybe being really uncomfortable, in my opinion, is not worth it, but it's there for whoever wants it. Now, interestingly, regarding dosing for the cognitive effects, our muscles are going to hog the creatine until they're fully saturated. And then any leftover is going to be available for the brain. So based on the recent research, it seems like we don't get the cognitive benefits unless we're taking those higher doses for that reason. Because first we need to saturate the muscles, and then leftover goes to the brain. So these studies are using doses as high as 10 grams a day or 20 or even more in some cases. So if you're just taking the usual 5 grams a day, which is recommended and what's been studied really for the muscle and strength benefits, don't expect to get those cognitive benefits. You have to go higher, twice as much or maybe even more to get those cognitive benefits. So basically, creatine is one of the most well-studied supplements. It has been proven to be safe and effective. The muscle-related benefits are very, very well established. The research regarding the cognitive benefits is more recent, but very promising. And I think that over time, as we learn more about it, we get more research, we learn more about all of the ways that it can impact our health, it's going to become much more mainstream and seen like a multivitamin. So think of one person in your life who either is trying to lose fat or get stronger or suffers from crappy sleep or is just a postmenopausal woman, and share this video with them so they can understand the ways that creatine can benefit their overall health. I'm Dr. Rachel Felber. Thanks for watching. And for more information on muscle, nutrition, metabolism, and healthy aging in women, hit subscribe.